Okay, Miss Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respect to elders past and present. Do we have any apologies with absence? Nothing?
Yes, there is. There's one for next month's meeting for council costs. First in leave of absence and that number.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Motion for that. Someone like to move? Thank you. Councillor Russell, seconded. Councillor Lada. All in favour? Okay, thank you. Public forum, we're going to the public forum. Thank you. 5 minutes?
Maybe move on.
Declarations of community interest.
Before we start, I'll just go on the declaration of pecuniary interest on the agenda. Any declarations? No. Okay, we'll move on to public forum. Thank you.
Just one more quick. Honourable Mayor and Councillors, I'm here as part of the Social Committee for the Cancoden Country Club. As we've written up there, the Country Club is more than just a club and a golf course. It's also the town's community hub, the purpose where our retired people and townspersonnel remain active through volunteer work. They meet and they find a sense of community. The golf course features grass greens and fairways that are maintained by the township's retired population on a volunteer basis and provides exercise through regular golf. The clubhouse is a community club where the retired township personnel meet, discuss with pride the township's core role in the building of the Snowy Hydro, and also it's a place where locals ensure that new families are welcome to town, like myself and my wife when we came a few months back, and also where young families can also meet in a social environment. Okay, just a couple of questions. Social resources, including social activity and social support, are key influences in the quality of life for the elderly people. Neighbourhoods, including social cohesion within a neighbourhood and safety, are associated with well-being in late life. The Cancoden Country Club offers that a safe social environment to meet others in the community, golf course to attract tourists into the township, and also a place for the patrons, families and club members to meet in a family-friendly environment. Cancoden's population is 304 as of 2016 census. We have 74 families in town, average family 2.1 kids, and then all out of the private dwellings, we've got an average of 1.9 people per house. And it's not a huge population. So at the moment with the country club, we have had to shut the doors on the country club at this point. We were trading for a period on incorrect advice, and it was updated that we were insolvent and we had to close, we couldn't keep going. So as the review of the profit margins, we had a business plan done. There were a lot of things within good business practice over the period, from the luxury days when Snowy Hydro were in the town to which had been incorporated as normal business. So we got this action plan going forward. So we're reviewing what the margins, they've been declining. We only had 3 wages in the actual club at the point, and all the rest was volunteer work. To develop the plan, originally we reduced hours, but then we've had to shut the doors now. So we've got to develop a plan to reduce the employment costs, what best suits the operating hours going forward. We're reviewing the insurances at the moment. The club, about 3 years ago, sold off their poker machine licenses to try and keep the club running. Unfortunately, they didn't put a good business plan behind that to actually maintain where they were going and see where the loss deficiencies were. And so they ended up back in the same point again with this asset. So at the moment, we also got, we've been paying rates on about 800 acres, I think they've got wrong. And we only use about 100 acres of that land. So later on, Margaret's council, excuse me, we'll introduce another part. So we want to develop a plan with the council to dispose of our surplus land and to inject capital originally to make us solvent so we can get open again for the Christmas period, because this is the period where we do get the money which comes into the town through tourism, and then how we can manage that cost. Yes, we've had an audit cost which come through. They come through about 7,000 annually, which is quite expensive what they've done. Partly that's because of the way the business was run in the past, because they didn't have a solid operating budget going forward, and they didn't reconcile their costs on a monthly basis. And so they got to the end of the financial year, and the auditors had a large workload to go through. So they're some of the things which we'll address forward. Next one, please. As I said, reporting and monitoring, simple things. Get an MYOB, get a business plan going forward, look at our expenditures, reconcile monthly, and report monthly on finance, so we can actually pick up any issues early. On the marketing side, it was discovered through the business plan that you went to Can Coven, and if you looked at places to eat and things to do, the clubhouse didn't come up on any of those. So it's a matter of getting the visibility out as well. Trading hours during winter, we can reduce those when we go forward. Our main focus at the moment is to get going. And next one. So what have we done in the direction at the moment? We have suspended the club trading indefinitely. Maintained the golf course, so we've still got the golf course in operation. 9-hole golf course, and we have grass greens there, one of the few golf courses which is an attraction for people down there. We're going to raise through income through disposal of surplus land. We're going to review all of our insurances, remove the unnecessary insurances associated with poker machines, pay our taxes, creditors, loans. A lot of the compulsory stuff we've been getting done out of what we had. But we've still got going forwards ATO, we've got to talk more to the ATO. Consider change in ownership structure, whether it stays as a club in New South Wales or we turn it into a large social club, or and restructure insurances and costs that way as well. And consider alternatives for the clubhouse itself, but that's only a conception at this stage and will be spoken about. So yeah. Any questions?
When you're saying raised, in fact on that other slide, raised income has commenced, what do you mean by that?
Raise income?
Yeah.
Well, there's several ways that we're raising income. When we had our AGM at the last one, there was plenty of people who were willing to commit finance, but we haven't got anything which we can balance it off a return until we've actually worked on our land processes, subdivided the land, and we've got a guarantee where we can actually do that. We can then take commitments from people to potentially get up and running sooner. Or secondly, we wait until we go through and do the surveying, the subdividing, and see where it goes through.
And is any wages owed to people, or is everyone?
Everyone's been paid. We've just paid superannuation. Sorry.
Everyone's been paid. All our bills being paid, stuff like that. It's just some of the outstanding stuff.
Yeah.
With the ATO.
And rates to council, are they being paid?
As far as I know, they are.
Right.
Yes.
We pay up to date until about June this year.
Yeah. Just going forward,
There's obviously been some issues with the directorship there previously, with regard to the financial situation and the poker machines, etc. So what changes have happened to give confidence going forward that you're going to turn that around?
I guess there was nothing malicious which had occurred there. I think it was a lack of information, which is the main part. I'm a senior manager working with Snowy Hydro as construction manager. So I'm entered into the board for that particular reason, for the experience of controlling large budgets, looking ahead from large programs, and getting the involvement. As I said, my wife and I, we moved here there 4 months ago. She's a psychologist, and the amount of assistance we got from the club and the community in helping us to settle into that community and seeing how important it was to everyone is what has fueled me to also get involved in this.
And what do you suggest the land would be worth?
I've heard there's one block at the front which is fully serviced at this stage but still needs to be surveyed, subdivided. The 1.5 acres, possibly around about $80,000, which would come in to certainly meet the immediate issues and get us into a position where we can start. It's not going to make it a financial viable case if we don't change anything going forward, but it certainly gets us into the summer period where we've got our population of tourists coming through and the period where the club operates well. The longer term one, there is a bush block at the back of the golf course, which Councillor this one we talked about, which is around about 600-700 acres, not sure what it's going to be surveyed as, but potentially that's where the income can come from to make it sustainable on a solid business plan.
How much do you think that would be worth?
Pardon?
How much do you estimate that would be worth?
I couldn't guess. I don't know. I don't have the experience in real estate down there, sorry.
Has there been any consultation with Snowy Hydro or any other?
There has been consultation with Snowy Hydro. As I say, I'm not here as a Snowy Hydro person, I'm here as a resident. Snowy Hydro is more of a public enterprise now. They did hand over the town to the council. I'm not even sure how many years ago that was. And the Snowy have helped them with the business plan, funding the business plan, along with also the council. And they do have functions up there when they can, and Christmas functions, but being a private enterprise, they've still got to answer to their stakeholders as well. So, thank you for your time.
Okay, back to the agenda. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Can you confirm those? Yeah. Councillor Usselman, Councillor Hand. And business arising from those minutes. Nothing there? Okay, there's a mayoral minute. I think all councillors have a copy of that. And the mayoral minute is, the purpose of the report is to request a report on parking in the Snowy Valley Council. And the recommendation there is that a report be prepared at the earliest convenience highlighting parking issues in the Snowy Valley Council with particular emphasis on the parking contribution required for developments in the former Tumut Shire Council. So On there, I don't know.
Get up.
Is it done?
There's no debate.
So, bring that forward. Thank you.
Mayor, could I make
Any
a,
comments?
yes, please, could I make move a motion that the motion I have before the table on Canco be moved to confidential, please, because there are some sensitive confidential issues that need to be discussed that are relevant to that. And I believe it needs to be moved into confidential, so could I move that that be done,
We'll put your motion.
please? Oh, it's your first. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Do you mind if we hold up for a second?
No, certainly.
All right, so I've got the motion here, the Merrill Minute, that we move towards a report on that. All those in favour? Against? So that's carried. Councillor Isselman.
Yes, again, agenda. Could I please move that the motion I put before the council be moved to confidential because there are certain sensitive issues that may be relevant to this motion that need to be confidential.
Commercial and confidence.
Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that? Any discussion on that? All in favour? Okay, carried. Moved into. Okay, which takes us to the notices of motion, which we have a few. First one is on page.
We better advise our visitors that it's actually going to be discussed in confidential, so they can't stay.
You can stay until then, but it won't be discussed. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Right.
I'll call you as soon as we've done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So we've got item 7.1, waiving of all pool fees. Councillor Lara.
Seconded?
Yep. Move that way?
Yeah, I'll move that one.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Councillor Isselman?
Look, essentially, I put this notice of motion forward to establish free operating of the pools, essentially on a 12-month trial period, to see how that progresses throughout the Shire, to encourage participation at the pool, and to ensure that cost isn't a restriction to people accessing the pool, to promote social cohesion in the community, and to promote citizens being able to exercise freely and enjoy the beautiful pools that we operate. I think it'll be a good option for the council to adopt this, increase participation at the schools, increase the safety awareness around water, and improve the social aspects of our youth, and assist them in the community, as well as older people who might like to go there with their grandchildren, or people who just like to exercise. So on that basis, I propose this and would recommend that anyone who's paid the fee already be reimbursed for the yearly subscription, and that at the end of the 12 months we reconsider it, and that the fees and charges remain as they are at present if we revert to a fee structure. So, for instance, if the fee was $1 a tonne barumba, well, that remains as it is today in 12 months' time if we discontinue the free trial. Essentially, I just recommend it. I think it'll be a good inclusion, and perhaps we could also work with council staff to perhaps include a demographic survey on entry, so that we get some good feedback and information on the demographic of people who are using the pool, and perhaps it should be a condition of an initial entry that we do get that information back as a condition of free use, similar to what some stores do when you purchase goods in the store. Get the postcode and the age of the person using the pool. whatever information the council might deem appropriate to facilitate further decision making into the future as to the ongoing commitment to our pools.
Thanks, Councillor. We can do this two ways. We can debate it as a normal motion, or we could move into committee if anybody wants to say anything further, or we could just put the motion.
Can I just ask a question in Director of Assets? I noticed the Director's got a comment there. Maybe we can move to Council, to committee. We could have a comment from Director of Assets.
Exactly. Are you moving that way?
Move to committee, please.
Seconded?
Yes.
Councillor Cross? All in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
So, Mayor, I noticed the Director of Assets and Infrastructure has commented on the recommendation that the fee structures remain contained and that the review be undertaken for next year. Could I have a breakdown on what fees may be expected to be gathered through that year, through this coming year?
Mr Christensen?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On previous years, across the 5 pools, we have a total revenue of 214,000. Of those entries, fees is 133,000.
133,000.
That's total across all 5 pools
All 5.
for the full seasons. That's all. We were only looking at $133,000 as fees. I mean, only, but still.
So, and all the rest is in swipe card things.
All the rest is in the activities we have, like the learn to swim classes and the aqua aerobics, and also the kiosk takings.
And they would remain under this proposal?
Yes.
And indeed, possibly increase?
Yes. So entry fees are 133,000, which is applicable to this.
And do you envisage the operating costs to go up as well?
I could only provide you anecdotal discussion on that. I wouldn't be able to provide you hard facts.
Assuming that the hours don't change, but there would possibly be more chemical used and perhaps the need for more supervisory staff.
I'd say that there's a high likelihood of more supervisory staff required. You increase the numbers of people patronising these facilities, there may be some more staff required.
Yep.
But I couldn't quantify that. I don't have any data to say how much it would increase.
Thank you.
May I ask, would you have any idea how much is children and how much is adults?
I haven't prepared that information
No.
for this. It's very hard because we haven't collected very hard data over the 5 pools over many years, and it hasn't been inconsistent. So I can provide you rough figures that have been collected, but I couldn't provide them now to you.
And Councillor Ladu, is this for under 18-year-olds, or is this blanket for everyone?
Well, I propose that it's blanket for everyone because I just think it would be too difficult to manage if we start trying to police it at the gate.
Okay.
I think that'll sort of add to the impost.
And I suppose I'm trying to think of a solution for this, but thinking in Tumbarumba, there's a caravan park next door. They paid for their showers. All of a sudden, the people at the caravan park go up to the pool. I'm just wondering if there's some way that we could be clever enough that that was counteracted. I think we have to be aware of the good businesses we've got and look after them.
So the issue is that you're concerned that people are paying for showers at the caravan.
And that's a revenue for the caravan park, and all of a sudden that revenue would be certainly reduced because people jump in the pool and have a shower out there. Whether they pay for showers, I don't know, but we have to look after our businesses that we've got.
I suppose the reverse thing might be that their caravan park might be more full now that they can get free entry to the pool.
Oh, the caravan park doesn't have any trouble being full.
Mr Cox, would you like to comment?
Yes, the Mayor, that is already an ongoing issue in relation to people paying the nominal fee to enter the pool and use the showers. The people that do free camping inside the Shire and making it free would actually increase that substantially, I would feel.
Is there any possibility that we could introduce, if you want a cold shower, we'll provide it, but if you want a hot shower, you put the coin in the sock like they do at Caravan Park?
Yes, that's an option. You could retrofit the showers because they are hot showers there. Up until about 5 or 6 years ago, there were only cold showers there. But yeah, some sort of device could be fitted to the hot that allowed you to use that. I don't know if you want the patrons. Well, I suppose they're all legitimate patrons if you do make it free to use the pool. I don't know if there'll be any backlash in relation to having to pay for the showers. But I suppose if they're getting free entry, it somewhat cancels out up there.
Oh, look,
Mr. Chair. The main thing in my mind is that we have to look after the kids. It's the alienation of the youth. It's our problem in this town. The kids being felt that they're excluded from going to the pool and their buddies are inside. They're excluded because they can't afford to go in. And I think that leads on to vandalism and all sorts of antisocial behaviour, the fact that these kids are excluded. And my motivation about all of this is to get those kids free access to swimming. Because after all, before the snowy hydro came in and made our river dangerous, they used to swim in the pools in the river, and that's been taken away from them. And if you live on the coast, you have the kids have access to the ocean and the beaches for free. And I think our kids should have the same opportunities here. At present, you can see kids walking past a swimming pool in summer, looking inside at their buddies swimming around inside, and they have to feel that they're being hardly done by. I'd certainly support this for children under the age of 18, but I don't think there's the same case for the adults.
Yeah, and I feel very much the same way. Further comment?
Yes, I'm significantly concerned that if we start saying under the 18, we put an impost on the people who are running the pools to decide who's 18 and who isn't, and I think that in itself is going to be a difficult thing to police. I think if we're looking at this from the position of the social impact of being able to swim and those sorts of things, I think we should be clear cut and say it's free, and the idea of considering what age they are and so on is of no concern at all. I significantly would like to trial it for one swimming term, with the understanding that we do a very clear estimate of what it has meant to the pools, what uptake has been, what the exercise is, and with the understanding to our community that if we feel it is too much of an expense and it's too expensive for us to continue, that we'll bring the fees back in for another year and continue on from there. But I don't think it's going to do all that much harm to us as a community to trial it for one season and see what it does. There are issues in relation to international travellers who come through our communities on seasonal work, and I think they're the people we are largely ignoring as our tourist potential for the future. These young people who come here on seasonal work, they're not necessarily people to avoid, they're people we need to embrace and give them an opportunity to be part of our community and embrace the ethnicity that they bring to our community, and I don't believe we're doing that at the moment. So avoiding having free pools for only adults is not something I would support at all. So I think that we need to just go with the fact that $133,000. I'm surprised that it is so low, and if we give our ratepayers something to be really celebrating in relation to what their rates are and offering, well, then that's why we go. It potentially, and this is something I'm having a balloon thinking of, potentially we could ask people to, if there's suddenly a massive uptake, to put an extra $1 on their rates, and away we go.
Now, I think I like the idea of paying for the hot showers to support the caravan park in Tumbarumba. Like, to me, that's a way that it's going to protect them. And like people have a cold shower for free, but if you want a hot shower, pay $2, you can get a hot shower, and that'll protect them and make it look like we're doing the right thing by them as well.
Yeah, I'd support that.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Cross.
My feedback from the community that I've been surveying is that they expect to pay, that they're happy to pay, and that if they pay for it, they value it. And my worry is that if they are asked not to pay, they won't value the facility as much. I take your point that it's a socially equitable thing, and I like the idea of having a survey to see actually who is using it. But if we set a precedent that it is free this year, then if it's not free next year, council could look bad as well. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm sitting on the fence.
I think that's pretty clear.
And the anticipated deficit is, what is it, 852,000, is that right?
We'll take it to a million.
I can tell you that from last
Take it to
year.
$1 million.
So the net council result was total profit loss was around $900,000. So yeah, so we've made expenditure of that. So it's roughly around the 10% mark that you're recouping.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Pardon me. Considering that this is a trial that we're considering at this moment, can we also include in the trial equalising the time that the pools are open, or the season that the pools are open, that they're unified as well during the period of this trial?
Councillor Smith, I think that would be an amendment, and once we move out of committee, you can put that, or you can put it up as a separate notice of motion for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Move that we move out of committee.
Sorry, is there a behaviour policy for pools?
Scott?
Sorry, what was that?
Is there a behaviour policy for pools?
Exclusion for misbehaviour?
As far as I know, no. Kids under 16 have got to be supervised by an adult at the pool, but I don't think there's an actual formal policy.
May be younger than that, I think, from memory.
12?
Yeah.
But yeah, that needs to be.
Yeah.
Mr. Christensen.
Mr Mayor, there has been instances at some local pools where the police have been called to escort people off the ground for bad behaviour, but we don't have any powers to forcibly remove people from the pool.
We don't?
No.
Do we have the powers to say, no, you're banned, you're not allowed in here?
Yes.
We do.
Councillor Risman?
Could I move that we go out of committee, please?
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Second. Councillor Wright? All in favour? Okay. Thank you. So we've got the recommendation there. We have Councillor Lala has spoken on it. Does anyone like to speak against that motion?
Yeah, I'm afraid I have to speak against it. I'm just concerned financially that I don't feel overly comfortable with it. Love the concept. But if it does go ahead, I'll put in mine, that Can Coburn and Tumbarumba now get swipe cards, that the fees remain the same if we come back again after the trial, and that there's a strong behaviour management policy put in place, and that showers at Tumbarumba are charged.
So are you moving an amendment?
I'm
Am I?
happy for that to be on.
You're happy with that to be included?
Thank you.
We better get that.
We better get that down. So that'll have to appear. So you'll have to speak slowly to Susan. And then
Okay, sorry. Swipe cards for Can Coburn and Tumbarumba.
Swipe cards for all pools.
For pools, yep.
Council pools.
Fees to remain the same after the trial period. At all pools. Strong behaviour management policy in place. Developed, I suppose.
Behaviour management.
Policy.
Behaviour expectations or management?
Hot showers in Tumbarumba to be charged. And finally, all people to be refunded, all people who have paid so far this year to be refunded, unless they've been swipe cards.
Unless they're swap cards.
Yeah.
And the survey probably needs.
Yes.
That's a survey being conducted. Full use of the survey.
On entry.
Does that mean we have to man the gate? We probably wouldn't.
No, for access, just a form that they can fill out.
Well, you can even just have an iPad there, couldn't you? Just
Yeah, random survey with that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, the introduction of swipe cards doesn't define the purpose of it being free for entry. issuing the actual swipe card. There's a cost involved in actually installing that infrastructure. There's going to be a substantial cost involved at those two facilities. I don't see the logic if we are having free entry that you actually require a swipe card.
Because that's after hours.
Yeah, and that was the other thing in relation to Councillor Smith's request for the extended hours. Obviously, there's other issues in relation to they've got the former Tumut Shire pools have got video surveillance and other forms of surveillance over the pools to meet the liability requirements. So there would be a substantial cost to the Tumbarumba and Cancoban pool for the installation of that equipment if Council wanted to go down that path.
Well, given that, maybe Councillor Ham might withdraw that and we get a report on the cost of that for the next meeting, and then we decide there, so we're not rushing into something that we haven't considered prior and we don't really know the cost.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay.
And I have to also say that I support the idea, the concept, but I'm concerned about the impact of the cost, that maybe we could spend that money on other things.
Well, you'll have to consider that when you vote.
But no, I'm not happy with that. So I've just agreed to take the swipe cards away. So that means that Tumbarumba and Cancoban don't get the access of the pools in the northern area of being able to swim, do laps before and after the time. It's not very equitable across the council.
We're talking about existing infrastructure and putting new infrastructure in.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the difference.
I know. Well, that's where I come back in. I just think this whole thing needs, but there are going to be ramifications, and we should, look into it a bit further before we pass this motion.
Well, in that case, you might be voting against it.
Oh, I am.
You've just moved part of the...
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I'm happy with it.
You're happy with that?
As
further-
a seconder, I'm happy with it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Well, I'd like to have a full report on the fees and charges.
Well, this is what we're voting on now.
Okay, that's fine, sorry.
Yeah, you can move an amendment if you want to include that.
Okay. Right.
So you're moving an amendment?
Yes.
Which is?
That we have a full report on all the fees and charges and full access to all the financial implications of the decision that we're taking.
That's not an amendment, that's a different motion.
Sorry.
It's a different motion altogether.
Yeah.
You want to include it?
Yeah.
Well, we've been given the fees.
Well, I caution you on that because a couple of things here. There's some measures that we're talking about now that may require additional equipment to be installed to provide protection. And depending on the usage and the hours of usage, we may be required to employ more staff to operate the pools. And that's something we haven't costed in terms of what I've told you at the moment.
That's not part of that information. That's not part of that motion. So there's no extra cost at the present moment.
Well, there will be as a consequence of it, that's all. I was cautioning you there will be, because primarily, but then there are potential, if we don't need to have a game, we can have people on the pool.
And
That's
potential offsets in the kiosk.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, there's all that, but that's, so,
I think
we'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I think we'll just put this motion and see where we go from there. So the motion's there. I'll call it a division, so if you can just put your hands up. So all in favour? Motion's passed. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. Recommendation 7.2, the Council prepares a report outlining design options, cost, funding sources and/or potential community partnerships to upgrade existing infrastructure at the Adelong Pool to improve the capability and serviceability to provide year-round swimming. Councillor Roney moving that?
Yep,
Have a seconder?
No, sorry.
Councillor Benjamin? Councillor Wright?
Yeah, look, essentially, the rationale behind this is that the Adelong pool was always planned at some point to be heated. It was purpose-built for it to be heated. Council made a decision in 2012 not to heat it for various reasons, but essentially we do not have a heated pool in the whole Shire. I think we'd probably be one of the few shires in New South Wales that probably doesn't have a heated pool somewhere within its environment. It's been something that has been spoken about for many years, and we were lucky in 2012 to be able to build a multi-million-dollar facility at Adelong that came about primarily due to a flood and some very good community support in Adelong and surrounds to build a world-class facility. And I'd like to propose that we take the next step to heat it, and we explore the options to do that, whether we seek those options through a tender process to provide it, to see what it will cost, or we make those decisions in-house and then go to tender. But I don't particularly, just taking into account the Director's comments, I'm not in favour of outsourcing that to a consultant. I think we either go to tender or we design it ourselves. There's not a lot of options there really. It's just a case of basically putting a roof on the top and then deciding how we heat it. The provisions are there for the heating via gas, but there is a number of options that may or may not be viable. Geothermal, there's the gas, there's the solar, and there's also the heat exchange pumps. Or whether we just put solar panels and offset the costs from the input. I understand Cootamundra is running a very successful heated indoor pool. Perhaps we seek some input from our fellow council as to how they're doing it and how best to do it. But my thoughts are initially that, as we discussed in 2012, that we essentially put a roof on it but have a concertina door system either side, so that in summer it doesn't remain an indoor pool, it remains an outdoor pool with a roof. And there is even options for roofs to be electronically wound back if that's a concern. And then in the winter months, then we pull the concertina doors closed and it becomes an indoor facility.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. You're speaking against the motion?
Can I have a question, please?
Sure.
Just a question for clarification, please, Mayor. The Director of Assets has said that council officers have facilitated the preparation. That means it's underway. Is that what's happening? It's already action?
Mr. Christensen?
Mr. Mayor, we've received one report that was undertaken during the consideration process by the then administrator for the heating of the Tumut pool, which did consider the feasibility economically of having such a heated structure at the Adelong pool. That report didn't favour that heating, and it directed the priority towards the Tumut pool. My comments placed in here are about looking at all 5 pools in the Shire and seeing how we can lift the level of service on all those pools, not just looking at heating them, but how we can extend the seasons of all pools in a priority manner.
Can you forward that report on to all councillors?
I've run up a copy for everyone.
That's it.
Thank you. Very interesting. Well done. Okay. So I've got the motion. Move to second.
Can I say in support, I'd like to see the tenders. I'd like to see what the costs are, and so that just becomes part of this report as well.
Yes, I don't think this motion is going to cost
It's
nearly
not
as
going
much
to
as the previous one. We finished voting?
Can't get them all done.
So do we need to, in that case, do we need to add further there that we seek a tender to provide?
Your motion?
Yeah, well, I put that.
Can I just request clarification of the motion? You're asking a report to outline the
You
design.
may not need to go to tender for a report.
No, you don't need to go to tender for a report. You're only asking for a report in that.
And then we decide whether we go to tender.
So
Are you happy with that?
it's staying as it is, isn't it? You're only asking for a report. Yes? That's all you've got there?
Yeah, well, my thinking on it was that if we do go to a tender process to provide those services, then we will then get a market appreciation of what it would cost to build. We don't have to accept them, but if we...
But you're only asking for a report.
So do you want added to that with the option of going to tender?
Yeah.
You can't go to tender unless you have a commitment to go ahead with it.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
you have the funding set aside,
So what we are asking here for
I
is a
think we just go
report.
with the report.
yeah. You need the report to do the
That's
assessment about the value of the tender. and
Yes.
deal with it.
Yes. So we're only voting
you.
on the fact that we're asking for a report.
So I've got the motion,
And can that be internal?
It could be internal or external depending on what resources we have available to do it. You know, we don't always have the expertise to actually cover something with specialist information like this, so we will seek additional support from other consultants to actually add to that report. Maybe in terms of preparing a report in-house you can do that, but we need in a decision like this you need to have the best information available. Right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that we have it in-house.
So we've got the motion there. No further comment? Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Councillor Lara. 7.3 we've moved to confidential. 7.4. The council establishes a major industry committee.
Yes, Mr Mayor, this is a motion I put up. The reason I put it up is that we don't have any formal reporting to us about what's going on in our shire. We're a very big shire with some major industries. And most of the information I get personally is from down the street. Have you heard so-and-so got a tender to put a massive
Councillor
road?
Pritchard, do you want to move it and then we'll...
Yeah, I'll move it, yeah, sure.
Do a second it? Councillor Ham, carry on.
Yeah, they've got these major industries in our area. And we don't want to interfere with them, but it's our responsibility to our community that we're fully informed of what they're up to. I mean, Snowy Hydro 2.0 is going ahead, or the feasibility study is, and the likelihood is that it'll go ahead after that. But we don't really know what's going on. And sure, we went to a dinner up at Tumut the other day and other evening, and we were told a fair bit about it, but we don't have any formal way of asking them direct questions. And similarly with Visi, we hear rumours that Visi may be looking at putting these are only pure rumours, and whether there's any fact to them I don't know, but we need to know that Visi may be wanting to do a recycling to energy facility out the mill there, which would which I've heard could bring down many truckloads of material from Sydney for processing here to make energy. In other words, burning in our valley. Whether there's any basis to this, I don't know. Because he certainly has a community consultative committee, but they run it and they call the tune and they don't answer any direct questions. We have the big, massive softwood industry here, and they again have a committee to which council has a representative, which is the softwood working group, which is good up to a certain point. But again, we don't have any regular reporting to this body, which is to this community, and so I felt that we need to address that deficiency by forming a major industry committee. Yeah, that's what I've got to say.
So do you envisage this would just be, say, an annual meeting or?
Well, I'd say once every 3 months.
Once every 3 months.
And it could write official letters off to Busy or to Snowy Hydro or to whatever, or Claire, or the new one that's thing for your fast training.
Could be extensive mailing list.
Anyone else like to speak on the motion?
Would this, Jeff, are you looking at this includes horticulture as well, like the funerals and the
Well, they're
blueberries?
minor industries, really. Well, so is the flower industry, but
Oh, no, come on.
but the ones that are going to have a major impact on our community. I don't know. I'll be guided by what the community is.
Maybe need to talk to the Mount Scratchinal Centre as well, because they're a major employer in there.
Yeah, how much is, okay. And I'm looking at Hyan as well. So the Softwoods Working Group.
Yes,
That-
Heinz a member of that.
Okay, so that would
Yeah,
cover
shall
a
we go
lot
to
of.
No, I think so.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I move that we go to committee, please?
Yeah.
Are you only going to move and second?
Oh, I've got to move it.
No, for the motion, please.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You were going to move in
I'll
second to the
second.
motion on the, yeah, we do have that.
So move to committee, seconded. Keep going.
So I've got no problem with it, except I'm just wondering what is, you know.
At the present moment, all I'm trying to say really is at the present moment we don't get any formal input. Well, we don't, let's say, ask these companies any questions which could, about what their intentions are. And I'm sure a lot of this is, most of this is commercial in confidence, but I personally want to know what's going to happen in these waste to energy proposals that are in the wind.
And do you think they'll tell you?
We've got more chance of them.
In a what would basically be a public meeting?
I don't think they would. But,
No, just so I'm just, bringing the devil's advocate
yeah,
here. What,
sure,
why?
but we would be in a position to ask the politicians to give us an answer.
Yeah. I think we might be looking at establishing something that, with all good intentions, that won't really work.
So I'm wondering if, I understand where you're coming from, and I can see that to me you're talking about lobbying to understand what these major players of the world, not just of our community, but of the world have in reference to our community, and I think that's a really important thing to know, but I'm not sure we get it out of our major industry committee that you're speaking of. And I wonder if we would have lobbying power stronger if we as councillors gave greater support to our Chamber of Commerces and gave them an opportunity. I know the Chamber of Commerces perhaps are of the past, but issues relating to specific industries, surely, we as a council group could deal with. I'm not sure it needs a viable industry.
The Chamber of Commerce at all, really.
Yeah, I think I agree with Councillor Pritchard. I think this is the step above that.
Yeah.
You may remember, Councillor Pritchard, the previous Tumut Council, we had a motion that we have a community forum on development, major development, and it never went anywhere. So maybe we might be better off hosting a forum or a workshop or something, and then from that seeing where the main players want to go and building something from that, rather than just establish a committee that maybe might work. Acting interim general manager, you wanted to say something?
If I may.
Absolutely.
Just one other example is about the forestry industry, for example. We're always looking at expanding.
Yes.
And one thing I've wanted to bring up for some time but haven't done so is that should we have a buffer zone around our towns for forestry, so that we don't have a disaster that happened in 2003 in Canberra when a lot of Canberra nearly got burnt out. From a fire protection point of view and from an aesthetic point of view, should we be looking at having a buffer zone around the towns?
Can I just answer that one first? That you're actually about to review your LEP, and that's the things you actually discussed as part of that revision of the LEP, and that's the key thing. I will also caution you on the committee idea that we have no authority to ask these people to come to the table, and often we're talking about information, as the Mayor has already said, is quite commercial in confidence. And even if we could do it in a confidential way, often we can't release it. Anyway, so your idea of talking to about, your concern, I think you've got concerns about waste to energy, but actually adding to the pollution in the environment. The appropriate regulatory control, and the people who control that very rigorously is the EPA in their licensing of those facilities. And actually, I had first-hand experience with actually dealing with this issue. And you get more information out of them with regard to what's happening, as well as what the standards would be in requirements to actually for someone to meet. So you probably get the information not necessarily from the people actually proposing it, but actually us then as an organisation looking at what the issues are and actually talking to the appropriate regulatory authorities about the standards that would be applied.
And that's the sort of thing that this committee could ask.
Well, you can just ask it now. We can go.
I sent you an email. I sent you an email a few weeks ago asking for a report on.
Yeah, we are. We're trying to get the information together for it.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with state government agencies, it takes time to get information back. You won't just get it back the next day. It could take a month.
I didn't have my email acknowledged.
I spoke to you on the way up to the thing.
Yeah, but I didn't have this speaking to somebody's not.
Anyhow, we'll address that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, if I could offer an alternative, the former Tumut Shire, they had an informal council session and we invited these industries, the directors, to come along to that meeting and have a presentation confidentially. And we had Snowy Hydro, a number of government agencies and New South Wales Police, and that was a really good forum. It was an informal forum. And these sort of things
Gus Hine used to have those ones with regularly.
Hine and Son used to come in occasionally, so I think that could be a good alternative. It's with the whole
I'd be happy to withdraw that and
withdraw that.
Ask for a report along those lines.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
So withdrawing that and we're
Moving
that
out
way.
of committee.
I move that we ask for a report about some alternative.
Well, we'll move out of committee and then we'll do that.
Move out of committee.
Seconder? Councillor Cross, all in favour? We're out of committee. Councillor Pritchard?
No, I'll withdraw that motion and ask for a report along the lines of, what do you suggest?
What Gus said.
If I could, Mr Mayor, I don't think it actually needs a report. I think if we have these informal council meetings, I think it's just an operational thing that we invite these stakeholders to a meeting to present and just have an informal discussion. I don't feel it needs a report.
Okay, well, we'll move
that we initiate some meetings.
Good idea.
I think we identify our key stakeholders and invite them, industry stakeholders, and invite them to come and talk to council in an informal manner.
Thanks. That's great. Moving forward. Tourism Committee. Recommendation there that Council establish a Tourism Committee and that the Tourism Committee establishes appropriate subcommittees for defined interests, etc. Moving that way.
I'll move that way, yeah.
Seconder. Councillor Benjamin. Right. Councillor Pritchard.
We haven't had a tourism committee for a couple of years. It lapsed. And a couple of months ago I wrote an email to council about I wanted a copy of what was going. I had no idea what was going on when we were under administration. So I wrote to the council at that stage and asked for a copy of any minutes of any tourism committee. And I had a phone call from one of the council officers to say that there had been meetings, but there had been no formal minutes. It's one of our major economic pillars, tourism, and we have a responsibility to pursue it and promote it and be responsible for it, and we haven't been having regular meetings. I think the New South Wales government and the destination Riverina and Murray has established this new destination body, which looks good, and I think it's Julia may have a word to say about that shortly. But I think we need to have some local input. I mean, we were, for many years we were part of the Riverina Regional Tourism. Because we felt we weren't being properly serviced from them, we petitioned to have us moved across to Tourism Snowy Mountains, and we were. And but we read in the Common Press a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago, that we've been taken from Snowy Mountains Tourism and transferred back to Riverina Marine Tourism without any consultation at all. We're Tumbarumba, Tumut and Gundagai are in a unique position where we don't quite do either side, and I think that we need to handle our own destiny to some extent. Some years ago, the three councils then decided that we weren't the Southwest Slopes of the tourism, but we were the Riverina Highlands, and that was the name that we generated. And this building is in fact called the Riverina Highlands building, and there's also that name's been used for the bushfire services. So I think that we need to have a local tourism plan. The main tourism generator for us at the moment will be Canberra. The international airport's going into there, some major developments going into there, and as we sent down the other day that it's become recognised as one of the preferable tourism destinations in the world. And so it's going to grow, and we need to get into cahoots with Canberra. I think we can do that ourselves without having to go through the...
Okay. I think everybody should look at Lonely Planet and find out why it's the third most desirable place to visit. I'm just wondering whether it needs to, we need something along the lines that Council investigates re-establishing the Tourism Committee, combining elements from Tumbarumba and Tumut, or something along those lines.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
I might like to point out that for some years I've been working down this Tourist Information Service volunteer, and I get a good feeling of what's going on and what people are looking for. And they come into this area to look at the natural features that we've got here.
So we'll investigate the re-establishment of it, see who's interested. I know Tim O'Brien was certainly
Well, that's right.
interested in
Can I just, the Tourism Advisory Committee that was established through the administration period was very proactive in what they were doing, and I'm suggesting that we contact those people
Yes,
and inquire
you've
if
got
they
a core
would
there already.
they would be interested in joining and rejoining as the core, as a tourist committee, rather than saying let's start a new committee. Let's work from the basis of what we had when the
Reconvene.
reconvene.
But they had no minutes. Because if they don't have minutes, you don't have a meeting, you don't have an existence.
But that can happen in the future.
Yeah.
So if we look at page 76, Georgia has written just what you're saying about establishing the Tourism Advisory Committee.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd ask that we either bring this report forward 4.9 or postpone this, because I think you're going to create precedent. So the reports are connected, or the notice of motion and the report are connected, so they should be looked at concurrently.
So look at concurrently?
Yep.
What page is that?
Page 76 of the agenda.
Can I just
So
ask?
can we just put that in advance?
What you bring forward?
Bring this forward even though we've got the motion there?
Well, you can
You use that.
leave it on the table,
Yeah, we'll leave that motion. I think.
and you can bring this one forward and discuss it before you reconsider the other motion.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you very
second
much.
it.
Thank you both.
And on so doing, if I could go to the list of tourisms that are mentioned in the list for the motion, we're leaving out Battler Development League, and Battler Development League is the prime behind the Cider Fest, and both those groups have enormous support from Destination New South Wales, so they're a really high profile part of our community, and tourism and should be mentioned in the list, so I'll just bring that to our point. And we're looking at what page? 74?
76.
76. And of course, to that end, there's probably others you can add, but you know,
Yeah, I just think that
the Adlong Antique Fest.
exactly.
There'd be heaps of them.
Yeah, but they don't have the support from.
Well, there will be tourism groups that are actually meeting without necessarily meeting
Yes.
the council.
That's right.
76.
So the recommendation is The council defers the formation of the Tourism Advisory Committee until the Destination Management Plan is issued in January 2018. This plan will specifically address whether a Tourism Advisory Committee is required and structure and purpose of this committee.
Probably given it's required, but it isn't.
I'm just wondering whether the Destination Management Plan could be organised with the input of a Tourism Advisory Committee
What's the
rather
meeting on Wednesday?
than
On Monday.
rather than the opposite.
The meeting on Monday is a destination meeting.
On the 9th.
On the
No,
ninth,
it's
is it?
on- yeah, the 9th. Yeah.
It's actually got convened with the public and tourism groups in mind, and actually preparing the destination.
Right.
So you're saying establish
They're
the
doing
committee
that,
now?
Yeah.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I'd probably urge council to hold back until after that initial councillor workshop on the 9th to
Yep.
talk to the consultants, and that's the whole council. Yeah, and then, so it could be postponed a month if you wanted it to go up to the November meeting after you'd spoken to the consultants. I think it would be
Postpone
worthwhile.
this
Yeah.
motion for a month.
We're happy to do that.
Yep.
So we move and second that. Postpone that for a month.
Or you can actually just move it to be deferred till the November meeting.
I'll move that one. Yep.
Second deferred.
Thank you. All in favour? Deferred.
Then you go back to the original.
We'll go back to the original motion. Establishing a tourism committee. Re-establishing and invigorating.
Defer it till November.
Defer this one as well. Councillor Pritchard, you happy to defer this until we... Okay, thank you. Councillor, who was the seconder on that?
Me, sorry, my apologies.
So the motion is that we defer this one as well. Councillor Pritchard, Councillor Wilson.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favour? Carried. Nearly finished. Give the numbers.
There you go.
Page 34.
Yeah.
Mayor, can I just ask a question, please? Just totally, our tablets aren't recording the same page as the papers. We're on 38 on the tablets and it's 34.
Because it's in the footer.
Yeah.
And you got to look at the footer in the tablet.
Yeah, but it did before. It actually paged reference exactly.
It's page 34 on the tablet.
Yeah, so they're out of
It's
sync.
page 34, but it's out of
See,
sync.
you have the page reference.
Okay, recommendation there. Statement of financials.
Second.
Councillor Larda, Councillor Isserman.
Can I just circulate for you? It's just an updated report on the statement of investments.
Yes.
I'll just get you if you wouldn't mind passing those around. There is nothing remarkable to note in the investments or in the reserves. But I've just got some updated information for you.
And I noticed that the investments are still flagged from their provenance. Tumut, Tumbarumba. Yeah.
Is that going to remain?
And I guess that's the issue in regard to our two financial systems at the moment, which we are working on merging together. But at this point in time, that's the reason behind that.
That's the reason behind that. Okay.
So all those significant delay MP investments that stand alone will come back together at some stage in the future.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions, any comments there on that?
Move the report to...
We've got the recommendation. It's been moved already.
Oh, sorry.
You second it?
No deal. Good on me.
Well thought. All in favour? Carried. Let's move on. Review of section 3. Oh, this will go nice and easy.
You had the option, I gave it to you.
Review of section 355 committees. The recommendation is that the proposed amendments to be made to the council's register containing section 355 committees. The council elect alternate delegates to committees. Communication by writing to each of the committees to advise the committee of their council delegate and provide them with a list of expectations as outlined. Council conduct a review of all committee terms of reference for each of the section 355 committees in consultation with the committee, and that the amended terms of reference be endorsed by council.
Move.
Move. Councillor Lissenberg. Councillor Ham.
Council delegates.
So, how do you suggest we do this? Could we
Just vote on it.
just vote? Is there any comments on it?
So can I just make a query?
Yes,
Don't we have to put in who the delegates are, like in red,
After it's moved.
after it's moved?
Maybe.
Yep,
Oh,
happy to
Maybe
move.
not.
no, maybe not.
Maybe not.
I think we'd have to put the delegates in before we move it.
You can move it for discussion and add them if you want.
That's right.
Do you want to go through it?
So move it.
Can I just ask a question about that, the 355s?
Yes,
So
do-
that my understanding was that they didn't have to have council representation, that they could be standalone bodies.
They haven't always in the past.
But it's considered appropriate
Okay.
that council representation be made on the committee. Because what you have is a group of people who are acting on behalf of the council, actually becoming the council.
I understand the
Yeah.
concept.
So unless you've got some involvement in it, there's, and the way the reporting structure is, generally it's been accepted practice that someone would be there. And potentially can has to be a contact, but you can go 12 months without any official submission of statements or reports, then all sorts of things can
Yep,
happen.
okay.
Might I make a comment on that one too, please? The 355 committee can be a parent body to quite a number of subcommittees. And it's the subcommittees reporting to the parent body that can sometimes be caught in a non-reporting vacuum for us as councillors. And I think that's one of the elements that we have missed and haven't been paying attention to in reference to some of the 355 committees. I pay particular attention to the Ballet Development League, which has 5 subcommittees, and 2 of those do not regularly make reports, and I think that's a failing of the system. That if a subcommittee is not made to make a report to the parent body, that should be part of the understanding of the 355 committee.
I need a second. Councillor Benji. Thank you. So,
Just a
Yeah.
question. May I ask you a question? There's one here regarding the Montreal Theatre, saying it's an incorporated body and doesn't have to report to the council. So, if the council owns the building, so
yeah, I think the council owns, we've given our exposure to the Montreal Community Theatre, which is the radio station as well, which we provide rent for, and the fact that it's been given a substantial amount of the grant money, I think it would be...
Except that it's an incorporated body, independent of council. You can't touch it in that term.
Yeah.
They actually lease the facility from the council, and they might not pay much. They actually lease the facility
So
from
they
the
operate
council.
independently.
Yeah. And so, it's like any other commercial operation, leasing something.
but they've received a vast amount of money from the council.
No, the council's received a grant on their behalf to auspice for the upgrading of the facility. Yeah.
We probably need to know what our exposure is annually.
My belief is that we actually have supervision of
Yeah.
the funding and to approve works that be done under it.
Okay.
Yeah, on the reverse side, it's like council hiring the tourist information and asking for people who own it to give a report to the tourist information people. It's the same story.
Councillor Cox? Okay, so will we go through these? I'm on page 42, meaning of life to universe everything.
Just whoever's got the delegates, we just need to list those.
Move forward. James, just go to the
Let's just go to the table.
Who isn't in?
Table fees. Thank you. Table one's easy. Backland Development League. Councillor Russell, is that you? The alternate delegate?
That's me.
You're the council delegate?
Yes.
Alternate delegate? In red?
Yes, Mark.
Coburn comes to mind.
I'll be your alternative.
Sorry, who was that alternative?
I haven't had quite a volunteer quite yet.
I'll do it.
Councillor Russell. Camp Hudson?
Delete.
No?
It's removed from the list.
No?
Not required.
Not required. Christmas has been cancelled, I see. Chivett Community Transport Service. Councillor Lada.
Yeah, I don't know whether we need some advice on that. I had a phone call from the director of that unit, and they were, I think they were indicating that they're in a very similar position to the Montreal Theatre, that they're actually auspiced and not take part in it. So it runs separate to council, so I think we could probably remove myself off it. But if you want to seek advice, that was what.
Seek advice and remove you pending the...
Yeah, you wouldn't be active on it, it'd be only as a source of councillor.
What if required?
I'm happy to stay there, but they were concerned about it. So,
Festival?
No delegates.
No delegate required.
If Councillor Benjamin wishes to continue,
Okay. Take a statement. Glenroy Heritage Reserve Committee.
I'll be on that if you like, to as your alternative.
Thank you, you're the obvious choice there. Mountain Land Care Committee, Tumbarumba.
That's how I get required.
Thank-
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, no, I'm happy to be on
Yeah,
that.
tough, thank you.
Sorry, wrong one.
Who wants Rosewood?
I'll do that too.
Thank
Like,
you.
it's only a backup, of course, so I'm happy
Yeah.
to do that.
Moves us on to Talbingo.
Yeah.
Councillor Lada, Councillor...
Oh, popular.
Okay, here we go.
Ooh.
Who wants?
doesn't matter the rest. Do you want to come?
Councillor Cross.
Okay.
Tuma,
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
thank you. Councillor Ham. Summerfest.
I'll be the alternate on that. Yeah.
All right. Airfield.
I'm happy to do that.
Councillor Ham. Friends of the Library, Tumbarumba.
Happy to do that.
Councillor Ham.
Yep.
Thank you. Tumbarumba Historical Society.
Yeah, I'm happy for that as well.
And Tumbarumba Men's Shed.
Probably not
Men
so
put their
happy.
hands up.
You do that.
Councillor Lada.
Yeah, I can do that.
Of course, happy to do that.
Of course,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Councillor Smith. Sorry. Councillor Smith for Tumbarumba Men's Shed. RSL Memorial Hall Management Committee in Tumbarumba.
Happy to do that.
Councillor Ham. Tumba Trek.
I'll do that.
Well, there's actually three
Three
there
there.
already.
I don't think you need it because
Yeah,
you've got
there's
three there already.
three there already.
Just, I think it's just copy
And
and
it's going to be
paste.
on the 10th of February if anyone wants to know.
I had a meeting the other day about it.
Okay, moving on to the Tumbarumba musicians and dramatic arts group, including the Tumbarumba Youth Choir, Tumbarumba Pipes and Bands.
I'll do that.
Number
Councillor
4.
Smith.
Done.
So much easier. So we've got all those in there. You have a motion. We've got that already. Yep. So any further comment? Motion, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Moving on. Okay. Again, Robin, the delegation of authority to sign statement by council. Did they call that? And seconded, Councillor Risselman. Any discussion? All in favour? Carried. Annual conference, here we go. The recommendations there that 2 voting delegates be nominated for the 2017 Local Government New South Wales Conference. The council determined if any other council will be permitted, that's a tough word, isn't it? To attend the conference. Okay. So, move the recommendation, Councillor Lessing and Councillor Wright. Which brings us to the point of which other councillors would like to attend?
Can I just interject you and ask David a question? On the Thursday and Friday beforehand, are you wanting us all to get together? Because that's just suddenly a lot of time. Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
On the 30th and the 1st, yes,
Yeah.
we are. Yeah. It's a day and a half, so the half day will be on the Friday.
Right.
30th and the 1st.
Yeah,
Oh.
December.
December.
1st of December, 30th of, yeah, this is, and the 30th of November.
Yeah.
And that, we're programming in a councillor workshop, really to try and finish the induction program. So that we can sort of get through a lot of the induction stuff and also start launching the council in terms of being involved in the community, strategic planning and stuff as well. You won't get all that, it would only just be an introduction, but the taste to actually get you to understand what we're going to get you involved in after that period.
So is that, what day is that? That's a
Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday.
And then the Monday,
wouldn't,
Tuesday.
wouldn't the meeting be on the Thursday?
No, it's the week after the meeting.
Yeah. 23rd.
The meeting's the 23rd.
23rd.
It's the 30th. She's recommending.
Is that, I mean, because I don't know whether I'll be available for that.
The idea was to put it out today, let's see how many we can get, and then we'll talk about it later, after that,
Okay.
finalise it later, but I need to know.
What dates are they?
The
30th of the 1st, 30th of November, the 1st of...
December.
And this conference is...
Yeah.
The 4th, 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
So it's the Monday,
It'd be
Tuesday,
the Thursday, Friday, then.
Sunday evening.
Then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Sunday evening, Monday and Tuesday.
I won't be going Thursday. We're travelling back from Tasmania.
For the workshop.
Yeah. We can discuss that later.
Yeah, anyway,
Get through this
give me
one.
some feedback on that later.
Add to the recommendation, if I may. Add to the motion that all councillors who are able to attend do so.
Oh, good recommendation.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, I didn't.
Point 3, I'd like to add an additional motion that all councillors who are able to attend the conference do so.
I wish to attend.
Wish to attend, sorry.
Do you need to put in there that the June annual meeting is too?
No,
It's something someone should experience once in their career. Can I say it that way?
So you've avoided it up till now, is that correct?
No, I've attended every year during my normal tenure, but when I'm actually finishing on the 1st. My contract finishes on the 1st, so
Oh, then the GM, the new GM should definitely attend.
if he's available and if he's able to attend. So you kind of, yeah.
that's his.
So can we add that in there, that the new general manager be offered the
You don't need to,
No,
because it
you're
can be
right.
done as part of the administration.
Probably need to ask that tomorrow.
Okay. All right, so we've got the motion there.
Why don't you screen in front of each other so
That's because I need to move the neck around a bit.
as you did before?
So,
Yep.
any further discussion on that? Budget implications?
Understood.
There's money
They
there.
voted for it, isn't it?
Okay. All right, put the motion, all in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Proposed Crown Road closure. Council supports the closure of public roads and cluster. And moving that. Someone? Councillor Larder, Councillor Usselman. Anything that we need to know, Mr. Christensen, or is it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council officers generally look at these things on a number of matters. Is there any infrastructure that council owns that will be affected? Will there be any parcels that will be landlocked from the proposal? And does it restrict any access to water holes, etc.?
Yep.
They're all being covered in this assessment, and I support the recommendation put forward.
So these are in effect just paper roads. Any discussion? All in favour? Carried. Moving on. Declaration of alcohol-free zones.
Can I just ask a point of clarification, please, Mr. Mayor? From what I recall, in our Tumut Council meetings, the alcohol-free zone extended the full length of Pioneer Street down past the school and the hospital, rather than stopping at the corner. And I thought that was a motion we put through when we were looking at these 3 years ago. And I'd also make the point that the actual map shows that the alcohol-free zone starts across the road from the hotel, rather than from in front of the hotel, because the hotel is on Pioneer Street.
What page are we?
Page 70 on hard copy.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I'd agree with Councillor Easterman. It needs to include the at the front of the Batley Hotel there as part of the alcohol-free zone. It should be included, and Pioneer Street, if it was included in the last, must be a clerical error in the map. Should also
That's fine.
be included.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And we don't write to peak bodies and ask them, we just do this?
The consultations have already been, all the licensed premises within inside the zone or adjacent to the zone have been notified. They've all been given a copy of the proposal, and council can amend it at this point in time. It still gets advertised for another 28 days from this point. But
It'll be advertised for 28 days. Someone will move that? No. Councillor Smith, Councillor Benjamin. Any discussion? Any further questions? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Moving on. Minutes of the Youth Council meeting.
Seconded. Page 79.
Okay. Someone move those? We've done that? Yep. And any comments on that?
Just that there is a recommendation within that council contribute funding and assistance towards redesigning and building an improved and more functional use space at the Tumut Skate Park. Just wondering whether we could perhaps leave that in the hands of the youth initially, and maybe run a competition with a prize for the best design. Or
Yeah, I think we already discussed that. We looked at other options for getting grants as well. We looked at Blakely Miller, for example, and so encouraging those young people to take charge of the process of looking for grants and getting a grant.
And owning it.
And owning, yeah, exactly, owning it, yes. So,
If I could, Mr Mayor, I had a discussion with the youth officer, and I suppose that recommendation was put up that the council would generally endorse that proposal, and then they would go away and look at what the possible funding bodies would be. But I suppose they just wanted a resolution on the books to indicate that council would generally endorse what they were proposing to do, as opposed to actually seeking funding or anything.
That was my understanding.
I think we need to be saying that we'll encourage them to seek funding rather than contribute.
That was my understanding in minutes when we were there.
That's right.
Just a point of clarification, you're saying more functional youth space. Does that mean enlarging the skate park or having youth space around the skate park?
Enlarging the skate
It doesn't
park.
say it there.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the more functional use space are things like lighting and like solar lighting and an extension to the skate park as well. But just to enhance the facility they've got down there, some street infrastructure. You can buy park benches that have got the rails built in them, like concrete structures that they can use their skateboards and things on. It's just adding other infrastructure down there as well, including lighting, possible lighting.
But you don't have the word to expand the skateboard park. It's not really said.
Or you just leave it, because we can determine how we contribute with this.
Redesigning and improving.
It says contribute funding.
But we can contribute through helping
Good.
grants and things that we do.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor. Next to the skate park is the new, I can't remember the name, my apologies, children's play area, is that correct? Could I ask the General Manager, is that park still being locked every evening and unlocked every morning?
I'm not sure, Mr Christian.
Blind box?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The blind box is still being locked overnight.
So this proposal is to put lights on the skate park and still lock the fox.
Oh, I'd say they'd be timed, the lights on the skate park.
They definitely would be, I would assume, but that would be up to council's discretion, but they would go off at a certain period of time.
I think when we put the skate park up, we negotiated with the residents across the road that they wouldn't be impacted by late night.
You would need approval anyway, wouldn't it? Extension?
It would have to
That would be
come back,
conditional.
yeah.
Rather than us redesign it, is there any chance that we could put $100 up or something to run a competition across the youth to redesign it themselves?
They've got their own funds.
I think it's better if they engage somebody to do it for them, because there's some absolutely amazing options out there, so to get somebody to do it properly as well, maybe across the whole Shire. I think you had some ideas too, Andrew.
Yeah.
Actually, that recommendation covers that option if you want to pursue that.
Okay, so we have.
Now it's going to government Olympic sport.
Okay, we move that, put that motion. We've got to move in a second then. All in favour? Carried. Okay, let's move on to the minutes of the Sports Committee. Just a clarification here on this. It says that I declared a non-pecuniary interest to report as a board member of the Adelong Junior Sports Foundation. I'm not a member of the Adelong Junior Sports Foundation and have never been a member of the Junior Sports Foundation. I am, however, a board member of the Bendigo Bank, who is a co-funder of this, that grant. Same as I'm a member of council.
So it'll be made with that amendment, will it?
Yes. It needs to be amended. So, if we could, with that amendment to that, someone could move those? Councillor Benjamin and Councillor Wright. Any clarification, any questions on that? Or put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Late report. Everybody had time to look at that, or on a moment?
Mr Mayor, if I could. Yeah, look, it's a procedural report that's got to go through, and I do apologise that it's missed in the initial business paper that the amendments are of a minor nature there. They only really affect just a handful of lots there in the southern end of the Tumut Shire. Happy to take any questions that might arise.
Just one question. Are these changes as part of the LEP that was prepared earlier, and it's just a minor adjustment to those LEPs?
Yeah, that's right, Councillor Isselman. The Amendment 3, these were pulled out at the last minute and sort of been put back in. So they've been on the books for a period of time. They were reviewed by the former Tumut Shire under the previous amendment to the LEP.
And that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. Councillor Larder. Any discussion? Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Which brings us to Committee of the Whole.
The water, isn't it?
Do we want, anybody want to make any comment?
Oh, Randy.
Hand the table, can I just do that? Councillor Larder? Councillor Isselman, you always got something to say.
You would say that. I'm really concerned that we take recognition of the Department of Planning and Environment, the new SEPs coming out, State Environment and Planning Policy, where they're taking the 5 documents and putting them into one rural document, and I think it's something as councillors we should be really aware of and pay close attention to. That's going to be a major change to things that have happened within council, and it could be worthwhile that we either have a workshop on that or a look at it in the near future, because that particular environmental planning document is going to lead us in what we have to plan in relation to our own LEPs. And if we haven't got ourselves around what the New South Wales state government wants us to do, then we can't really do anything with our LEPs. So I just asked Mr Mayor to recognise that that's something we might need to have a workshop on, or something like that in the near future, a briefing or something. I'm not quite sure how that will come about. Leave it up to directors and yourself. And I'm also keen to have us have an awareness of the public meeting to be held in Wagga on the 21st, which is local area health, district local area health. We've all got invitations to that, and I think more than I've already accepted to go, but I think more of us need to go and be part of that, given the issues that are relating to what Councillor Pritchard has often raised about what we need in our area and our local health system. So if we're going to get a handle on that, I think we should be addressing that as well. And this may not be our last meeting with our acting general manager, but it might be. Are you here for our next meeting?
Oh, it depends on whether you get someone within 2 weeks or something.
Oh, well, if you're not, thank you for your contribution.
Councillor Benjamin. Nothing. Councillor Smith? No. Councillor Ryan? Directors, can you?
Just on that, Councillor Isselman, the Tumbarumba multi-purpose centre is just about to start construction. The tender's been awarded to a company out of Canberra, and they're going to set up their site amenities in the coming weeks. So they're not planning on doing a lot before Christmas, but it'll be a two-year project there. So there'll be a lot of community consultation going out in Tumbarumba, but they're starting a new hospital job there. So.
Fabulous. Be good to see.
It's interesting, they gave us time to shift the tree and everything, didn't they?
Yeah, well, we've negotiated to put the site amenities away from the Christmas tree, just to fill in the rest of the council. There's a Carraway candlelight, there's a massive pine tree located on the site, and we've negotiated to allow public access for that over Christmas. So we have allowed to use an area of now adjoining park, a redundant sort of section of the park. Sorry, the other thing which might be worth mentioning is the container deposit scheme. We're negotiating, and the contract's been awarded to a company, but what they're offering is quite substandard for the community, so we're negotiating with them at the moment, but they're possibly talking about reverse vending machines. It's progressing, but at this point in time it doesn't look good.
Is that the only company that showed interest in doing that?
It was the company that the state government appointed to
Has
service this
tendered
area.
right across there?
Yeah, tendered.
So they're the sole provider, are they, of that service? No one else can do it?
Unless you take the product to a larger centre, but we're looking at different options, but I thought I'd just flag it.
What's the date for that introduction?
The 1st of December.
It wasn't well thought through.
No, but just, I will brief councillors at the next, the information session in relation to where it's progressing, like things are coming up daily in relation to it. But that's where it sits at this point in time, and we probably need to get some stuff out in the community as to what the implications are. But it's interesting at this point in time.
I'd just like to offer a vote of thanks to the council staff for the well-run ultra marathon. It was on the Human Hobble, and it was just amazing. 185 participants. Each one of those had at least one or two support people. The Elms did 120 meals that night. Town was booked out. It was just brilliant. And over again, they just kept saying how good Snowy Valley's council was. So there you go.
Good result.
Yep.
Councillor Pritchard?
I'd like to have the business papers in paper form rather than relying on the tablet, because it's difficult to get the whole tables and things on the tablet. The other thing is, when we get messages, there should be some way that we can indicate that we've received the message, and if that indication isn't received by the council staff, then they should phone us up. So often on the tractor and I don't hear a thing, and this messages.
Can we request receipt or something like one of those? Or
Yeah, because I know I often try to ring Councillor Pritchard and I don't get through, so I kind of, so I've had a bit of trouble with him.
Yeah.
Everyone else is all right. Maybe it's your tractor.
It's a bit noisy.
Well, we'll try and work through that.
Look, if you like, I'm happy to acknowledge by email.
Okay.
Because I know you get that.
Yeah, I do get it, yeah. That's good. That's awesome.
I'd like to say thank you to you, Mr Mayor, for delegating us to stand in for you at functions. I think it shows that to the community that we're united and that we're working as a team. So thank you. And inclusive.
Can't be everywhere.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, before you do your extremely long presentation, which I'm sure will be. I'd like to also recognise the most successful day we had in Batlow, the Apple Blossom Festival, and thank Council for their ongoing sponsorship and support for that particular one.
Mr. Acting Interim General Manager.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you can't make the 30th and the 1st workshop, let me know as soon as you can. Secondly, we are programming 2 weeks before the council meeting, a meeting at I think 3:30 in the afternoon on that Thursday, and we're going to use that, trying to use that as a briefing session so that the councillors can brief the staff on matters of their interest, and we can also brief you on things we're working on. So I picked up in short time here that there's a bit of a discord in terms of you guys want to get on the ground running hard. Give us an opportunity to understand what you're want to achieve and what you're trying to achieve, so that we can actually plug in what's already happened, because the council's already been operating, even though it's been under administration, there's been sort of some progress being made continually through that, and it gives us an opportunity, one, to discuss it with you, and two, then to be able to frame instructions to our staff about what we need to do and how we need to prepare things, so we can actually start to meet your needs as councillors as well, and also that we can get a better and actually build a better sense of teamwork between the executive and the councillors in terms of how we can work on into the future.
Next day.
And David, is that okay if that's teleconference, if you can't make it in person?
It's not a problem being teleconference because it's actually a briefing.
Oh, good. Cool.
Yeah.
So, before I say anything, Councillor Larder, we're not going all the way around again.
No, I just Margaret brought up about the local area health thing. I just wanted to seek some clarification as to what involvement we've had or haven't had with regard to the Tumut Hospital and the planning of that. Because I understand there is a planning committee, but given that, I'm not sure that the mayor's been invited, and we've got a retired surgeon here and on the staff as a previous hospital administrator, and my significant interest in it. It seems odd that somebody hasn't been approached to be involved in that.
Absolutely. And we'll take that as a comment. But certainly, I haven't been approached at all. So. Anyhow, we'll hope that we are in future. Look forward to it. I'd just like to, as Dave said, the teamwork's the main thing for me. I think as a council, as a group, even though it's only a short time, we're still pretty close. Still talking. And I'd like to thank everybody, the councillors who have stood in for me, because I think on one day there were 4 different places I was supposed to be, and you can't be anywhere. Yeah. So it was really good, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And I think it's been a very hurried start, but it's certainly been a very a good one, and I think productive so far as well. So thank you.
Just ask the arrangements for tomorrow, getting up to Tumbarumba.
Sorry, I can't help you, but just you might have to work out, because I've actually had to step away and have very minimal involvement in that process.
Transport.
So, who needs transport? Let us know. We can provide it. We'll arrange a vehicle, at least from this office, if you need it. So just let us know, and we'll sort that out. You do?
I wouldn't mind that.
1, 2, 3.
And we can pick Margaret up on the way.
At what time should we go? I have a very important mission tomorrow morning before I go.
Oh, your pen is.
Pick me.
We might discuss this later. Let's move on to
I'll be in the minutes.
confidential. Someone move that we move into confidential. Thanks, Councillor Lada. the motion we've got four?
In closed council, the council considered Councillor Issam's notice of motion and has made a recommendation to investigate the purchase of the lot. That's all I will say. The rest being commercial in confidence.
Thank you. And that being all the business we've got, thank you everyone for your attendance.
Tomorrow morning.
What time do we close up? Then we'll- Thank you.